Welcome to Wintuition, the sixth sense of EDH. I'm CJ, and today I get the pleasure of bringing you our first ever cEDH deck tech. With Lost Caravans of Ixalan releasing this Friday, there have been a ton of powerful new cards spoiled to add to the EDH and cEDH formats. But here at Wintuition, we believe that there was one commander in particular that will be a contender for the cEDH format, and that is the Ancient One.
The Ancient One is a 2-mana 8/8, which costs 1 blue and 1 black. It is a legendary creature, Spirit God, and has Descend 8. The Ancient One can't attack or block unless there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard. It also has an activated ability for 2 colorless, 1 blue, and a black. Draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard a card this way, target player mills cards equal to its mana value. So what really drew us to this commander is that it reminded us so much of another powerhouse that we see so much in the format, which is Thrasios Triton Hero. It is a legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard, that costs 1 green and 1 blue, and has an activated ability for 4 generic mana, which reads Scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library. If it is a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, draw a card. So both of these commanders have what's called a infinite mana outlet, which means if we can create infinite mana, we then are able to sink that mana into our commander's ability to draw our deck and find the line to victory. With that being said, let's dive right into the infinite mana combos. So the first combo that's going to help us generate infinite mana to activate our commander is going to be Isochron Scepter and Dramatic Reversal. Now, this does require you to have at least 2 rocks in play, one of which that produces 2 colorless mana, so a Soul Ring or a Mana Crypt, and then another rock that produces blue and black. Now, in this deck, you have a couple options: Arcane Signet, Mox Amber, Mox Opal, Mox Diamond. Potentially, Fellwar Stone and Springleaf Drum can help you produce those colors as well, as long as you have a creature with Springleaf Drum, and then as long as your opponents are playing blue-black, that you can actually tap that Fellwar Stone for. So the next way to generate infinite mana in our deck is going to be revolved around Hullbreaker Horror. Now with this, there actually are 2 different lines you can take with Hullbreaker Horror to generate infinite mana. The first is going to be using Hullbreaker Horror plus 2 mana positive rocks. So you can use Mana Crypt plus any other rock such as Mox Opal, Mox Amber, Arcane Signet, Fellwar Stone to generate infinite mana for our commander's ability. This combo can actually still be achieved by using mana positive rocks that only produce colorless mana, but you will need an Agatha's Soul Cauldron in play for it to work. Agatha's Soul Cauldron allows us to spend mana as if it was any color to activate abilities of creatures we control. So by generating that infinite mana with the Hullbreaker Horror and having Agatha's Soul Cauldron in play, we'll still be able to activate the ability of our commander to draw our deck and assemble a win from there. The second and last line of the deck that helps us generate infinite mana for our commander's ability using Hullbreaker Heart is going to be a mana positive rock and a clone effect. Now, there are 3 clones in the deck. This list runs Flesh Duplicate, Imposter Mech, and Phyrexian Metamorph. This line is dependent that our opponent has a dockside in play under their control to generate the mana that we need to be able to make infinite colored mana to be able to sink that into our commander to draw our deck and find the line to victory. So keep that in mind when going for this particular line in the deck. Now that we've gone over all the infinite mana combos, let's dive into the win cons of the deck. So we're just going to mention the most well-known win con that is found in every blue-black deck. It is Thassa's Oracle plus Tainted Pact or Demonic Consultation, a 2-card combo that, again, is seen in every blue-black deck. So there really isn't anything else we need to say about that. So let's move on to the next win condition of the deck, which is Blood Chief Ascension and Mindcrank. This is a really cool combo. It's seeing a lot of visibility in Italian decks right now. It is played in a fairly amount of blue-black decks, but we are running it for sure in ours because our commander mills. So that also activates the trigger on Blood Chief Ascension. So when it does have 3 counters on it, as soon as a card hits your opponent's graveyard, that will then trigger Blood Chief Ascension as long as it has those 3 counters on it, which will then trigger Mindcrank to make them mill, which then will create this loop to where they'll mill and lose life until they are dead. So the next win condition we're going to talk about here is one that is high risk, high reward. And what's really cool about this one is that you can actually win on top of an opponent's win, which is really cool. So this actually involves Laboratory Maniac, a Tainted Pact or a Demonic Consultation, our commander, and at least, at minimum, 3 mana, 2 of being black and 1 blue. So how this is going to work is we're going to have our commander and lab man in play. And when someone tries to go to win, or if we feel we have a window of opportunity to sneak in a victory, we will then cast Demonic Consultation or the Tainted Pact from our hand, exiling our library, and then activating our commander to draw a card, which will then trigger the static ability of Labman and make us win the game. So if you're wondering how is this a high risk win condition, if the lab man gets removed in response to the activation of our commander, we lose the game. So you really need to use your Wintuition here and wait for that opportune moment to snag the win. So this next win condition involves the prerequisite of infinite mana with our commander to be able to draw our deck. But we actually aren't going to be drawing our deck. Instead, we're actually going to be milling out our opponent's decks with the help from this one old and very cool card, Library of Lang. It reads, you have no maximum hand size. If an effect causes you to discard a card, discard it, but you may put it on top of your library instead of your graveyard, which allows us then to just recycle 2 cards and infinitely mill out our opponents, and then win from there because they will draw on their upkeep, which means since they have no cards in their library, they lose the game. So for the final win condition of the deck, it is Mnemonic Betrayal. It costs 1 generic, a blue and a black, sorcery. Exile all opponents' graveyards. You may cast spells from one of those cards this turn, and mana of any type can be spent to cast them. At the beginning of the next end step, if any of those cards remained exiled, return them to their owner's graveyards. Exile Mnemonic Betrayal. This is a great mid to late game finisher that is solely reliant on your opponent's graveyards, but it does allow you to craft a win using your opponent's cards. And I will say there is nothing more satisfying than using your opponent's cards against them. Now that we've showed you all the ways to win in this deck, it is time to show you the rest of the deck in deck stats. We're going to start off with the creatures. There is a total of 13 creatures in this list that we have brewed, excluding our commander. Some notable ones we want to mention are Talion the Kindly Lord, one of our favorite cards so far out of the recent sets, and then Malevolent Hermit. Moving on to the sorceries, there are a total of 10. Some notable includes are Yogswill, since we do not have access to red to run Underworld Breach. And then obviously Beseech the Mirror, which grabs everyone's new favorite card, the One Ring. Next, we're going to talk about the instants in the deck, and there are a total of 23. There are 2 I want to highlight in particular. The first being Stubborn Denial. It is definitely an overperformer in this deck because our commander does have a power, which then turns on the ferocious ability of Stubborn Denial. The next is going to be Muddle the Mixture, which can grab a key piece for us to assemble a win to our hand. So whether that be an Isochron Scepter, a Dramatic Reversal, a Thassa's Oracle, or a Tainted Pact, or even a clone, it really comes in handy in those corner case situations. All right, following up the instance is going to be the artifacts. We are rocking a total of 18 in this list, running your standard fast mana package, and we've already discussed a lot of the other artifacts in this section, so we're just going to move on to the enchantments. We are running 6 in total, and a couple of those include obviously the staples Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora. The other one I want to note here is Training Grounds, which reduces the activated ability of our commander by 2 colorless, so it will only cost us a blue and a black. Moving on, let's talk about the only Planeswalker in our deck, and that is Tezzeret the Seeker. He is there to seek out some useful tools like an Isochron Scepter or even an Impostor Mech. Now let's move into the land base. We are running 28 lands in total. I just do want to highlight some of the utility lands that we do run in this list. They are Cabal Pit, Cephalid Coliseum, Otawara Soaring City, Mystic Sanctuary, Takanuma Abandoned Mire, and Urza Saga. If you want to view the complete mana base for this deck, there is a link in the description below. And on that note, that is going to wrap up our first ever cEDH deck tech video. Please let us know in the comments below if we missed any cards that you think should be in this list. Also, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like button. It does mean the world to us as we are new content creators trying to grow our channel. And if you're interested in seeing some of the other content we've created so far, feel free to check out our YouTube short mini-series, cEDH Keeper Mall. And while you're on our page, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time on Wintuition MTG, the sixth sense of EDH.